I lost 40 pounds on Ozempic. But I am left with even more questions. Well, if I gave it to you, you'd be the thinnest person I've ever prescribed it for. Thinnest was not a word I was accustomed to hearing in a sentence about me. I wasn't fat, exactly, but I was awfully close. At 5 feet and 152 pounds, my body mass index was 29.7, just shy of the 30 that is considered obese. More to the point, when I emailed my doctor on that day in October 2021, I was miserable. My clothes didn't fit. Looking at myself in photos, on the unfortunate occasions when I was caught on camera, was painful. There were more than a few fat pig comments from readers, and while I pretended to shrug them off, those words hurt. The slug for this essay, what it's called in the Post's internal system, is fat columnist, but that suggests a level of breezy self-acceptance that I never actually attained. I had been a skinny child. But Mrs. Whitman, my middle school home economics teacher, this was back in the day, was prescient when she caught me sneaking chocolate chips from the supply cabinet and warned that this kind of eating would one day catch up with me. It did. Puberty wasn't kind to me, pregnancy was bad and menopause even worse. Weight was a chronic issue but, for the most part, not an urgent one. I was always heavier than I wanted to be, but when I put my mind to it, I could shed enough pounds to look better, for a while. They say you always remember your first time, and I will never forget the slap-in-the-face sting of a 10th grade boyfriend who offered, in response to what I had intended as a joking inquiry, everyone knows you could stand to lose a few pounds. This was the day I became a person who worried about her weight, but his cutting remark wasn't the last. Over the years, I tried a little hypnosis and a lot of grapefruit. I attempted Scarsdale and Slim Fast, counted calories and cut carbs. At college, I packed on the freshman 15, then lost it. I was thin, or thin enough, when I met my husband a dozen years later, and thin enough at our wedding. When children arrived, so did the extra pounds and, like them, stuck around. Weight Watchers, with its sensible, balanced approach to diet, helped peel them off, the pounds, not the kids, and then, after the scale inevitably crept back up, lose those same pounds again. Setting up shop at the kitchen table for remote work during the pandemic didn't help. So, at 63, I was stuck, and unhappy. This time, I just couldn't seem to get my appetite under control, I told my doctor, Beth Horowitz. A close friend, another patient of hers, had been seriously obese. Since we met nearly 4 decades ago, my friend had tried everything, liquid diets, bariatric surgery, you name it. Nothing worked, or, more accurately, nothing worked for long. But now, with a diabetes drug called Ozempic, my friend had lost 75 pounds, slowly, over the course of more than a year. This may sound crazy, I asked Beth, but could this work for me? A few days later, I unwrapped my periwinkle blue Ozempic pen, screwed on the tiny needle, and turned the dial to 0.25. A tiny droplet of clear liquid appeared at the tip. I jabbed it into my abdomen. Calling this an injection overstates things. It's a teeny, painless pinprick, especially painless if you've got the body fat to justify it. As I write this, I have lost 40 pounds, an astonishing quarter of my body weight. I weigh less than I have since high school, just about what I did when that high school boyfriend made his nasty crack, and while I'd still like to lose a few more, this goal is now in the realm of pure vanity. My thin clothes, the pants that sat untouched in the closet for years, because I couldn't zip them up, are falling off my body. I have more energy. Hikes that were punishing a few years ago felt easy last summer, without all that extra weight. People comment on the transformation, then pause to make sure, I'm at that age, after all, that there's nothing life-threatening going on. At this point I should interject, Novo Nordisk, the manufacturer of Ozempic, is clear that this medication has not been approved for weight loss, although the company's ubiquitous cable ads, Ozempic, happen to mention that topic. Adults lost up to 14 pounds, 3 times in the course of a minute, and physicians are free to prescribe Ozempic off-label, for a use other than its official purpose. Indeed, Ozempic is just part of a new arsenal of medications being used to treat obesity. In June 2021, the Food and Drug Administration gave the go-ahead to an identical formulation, at higher doses and a higher price, under the brand name Wegovy. Another diabetes medication, tirzepatide, marketed under the brand name Mounjaro, has demonstrated even more dramatic weight loss results, 22.5% on average versus 15% with Wegovy, and the FDA is expected to formally approve its use to treat obesity. "I think this is the turning point," said Dr. George Bray, a veteran in the field of obesity research. "It's the equivalent of bariatric surgery, but without the surgery." This is a remarkable development, given the astonishing prevalence of obesity, especially in the United States, where more than 40% of adults are obese and an additional 30% are overweight, and given the failure of measures less drastic than bariatric surgery to produce lasting results. But with this accomplishment comes a complex tapestry of moral, scientific and economic questions. Among them, obesity, which has been linked to diabetes, stroke, heart disease and increased cancer risk, imposes enormous individual and societal costs. Yet these medications are hugely expensive, they can cost more than $15,000 annually. Given the extent of obesity, how can society afford to cover more than a fraction of those who might benefit? Those who earn less and minorities tend to suffer higher levels of obesity. At the same time, they have less ability to pay out-of-pocket costs when insurance companies won't pick up the tab, which is often the case. How can we ensure that those with the greatest needs have access to the best therapies, rather than entrenching or even widening existing disparities? What are the consequences of long-term use, especially because evidence suggests that patients quickly regain weight once they stop using the medication? Semaglutide, the key compound in Ozempic and Wegovy, was developed in 2012 and has been around for 11 years, and widely used for diabetes, with no evident cause for alarm. Nonetheless, the question of staying on these medications for years remains, and became more pressing when the FDA in December approved Wegovy for ages 12 and up, and the American Academy of Pediatrics encouraged the use of obesity medication as an adjunct to health behavior and lifestyle treatment. In an age of telemedicine and online commerce, how do we mitigate the risk that the new drugs will be used by large numbers of individuals who aren't appropriate candidates? Even a rare side effect will be magnified if a drug is taken by a large enough portion of the population. For specialists in obesity, the current situation carries unsettling echoes of the Fen-Phen disaster of the mid-1990s, when another promising medication had to be yanked off the market. I lost 40 pounds on Ozempic. But I am left with even more questions. Well, if I gave it to you, you'd be the thinnest person I've ever prescribed it for. Thinnest was not a word I was accustomed to hearing in a sentence about me. I wasn't fat, exactly, but I was awfully close. At 5 feet and 152 pounds, my body mass index was 29.7, just shy of the 30